New Thought Media Network proudly presents Lindsay Leimbach, Practicing Infinite Possibilities, Fridays at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. And now, here's Lindsay.
Morning, everyone, or good afternoon, whenever you're seeing me or where. Welcome to, I want to say StreamYard, that's the mechanism we use, but welcome to PIP, Practicing Infinite Possibilities. Today, my cup is Dreams Come True. It's true. Your dreams do come true because your dreams are your thoughts, right? And so when you put these thoughts and you have these belief system behind it, it goes into that universal energy and then it gets expressed. It gets expressed in God's time, your spiritual time, your awakening time, but it gets expressed. Hey, I want to say, Trudy's here. Hey, Trudy, thanks for coming. Guess what today is? Does anyone know? Today's actually a very special day. Let me see. I'm going to get to it. I have this. Happy Pip. You know why I have this today? Because today is the 50th episode of PIP, Practicing Infinite Possibilities. And to me, this itself is a dream come true. Just being with you guys and learning and growing and sharing. So let's see, there it goes. And that's why I named it PIP, Practicing Infinite Possibilities. So how do you have this magnificent world out there? This is my little mechanism, my toy that reminds me of PIP. You have this magnificent, all these infinite possibilities. And then how do you get to practice so you get to create what you want, have your dreams come true? And that's what we do here. We talk about tools and tips and different things we can do to make it happen. So over the last couple weeks, because this is 103 basic Buddhism. So I've done 102 and 101. And we're going to dive in the Buddhist philosophy, in basic Buddhism. How do you take this infinite possibilities that get created? So in your human experience that you're having, how can your spiritual experience create what you want, not what you don't want? And today we're going to be talking about the 5 precepts. The 5 precepts. I have this. Look at this. I'm ready for this. So here we go. The 5 precepts, or the 5 rules of training for morality of Buddhism lay people, meaning people like us. So this is the monks and the nuns and Dharma teachers. They do this and a lot more. But in Buddhism, they have these 5 precepts to keep us in line. So we're going to get in there to help us build good character and to avoid, right, harming yourself, causing suffering to yourself and to others. But before we go there, I think a lot of you know last week I wasn't on and I had a replay on I'm Enough. And it's a really good replay if you didn't see it before, really talking about how do you feel like you're enough to just not have that roommate mind telling you, oh, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough. So that was kind of what I leaned into in the replay of last week. But while I had a replay is because I was on vacation and I got to practice a lot of Buddhism, the philosophy of Buddhism on vacation, because you have to let go of the control. You set up the goal where you want to go, right? I went to the East Coast. I'm located in California near Los Angeles, but I went to the East Coast and I actually saw 8 different magnificent women that I have been friends with for 40 plus years, and not all at the same time. So I saw them because some were from my neighborhood, some were from my middle school, from my high school, and one of them was a really good friend of mine and is actually a cousin of mine. So she's part of my family, but they're all part of my family. And when I went on this trip, like I said, I had to practice Buddhism because we talked in 101 Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths. So if we can just review them, what does that mean? Well, it means that you understand the first noble truth the Buddha said was that life has suffering. It just does. You don't have control. We all would love to have control and approval from the outside coming in. So everything goes our way and everyone tells us we're great. But that's not reality. Reality is that we don't have control of what other people think, do, and say. And we don't have control of their approval system to us because they have their own mind and their own subconscious mind acting on. And then we don't have control of the weather and airplanes and food and, whatever it goes on, how much things cost, and is there a gas station, and are people showing up, and are they healthy and stuff. We just don't have control of that. So I love to live in the flow when you go on vacation. So I understand in the first noble truth is things are going to happen. They just are. That's the way life is. The second noble truth, the Buddha said, is the reason why there's so much suffering from the first noble truth is because we are attached. We are attached to outcomes. We want people to behave a certain way, which is exactly what I said. You want approval from other people, or you're attached to how the airplanes are going to go and the weather, and I'm going to the beach, so it should be pretty, and I don't want it to be humid, and I forgot my bathing suit. You're attached that none of these negative things happen, or certain outcomes are going to happen, and when they don't, you're like, damn, right? So the Buddha said, there's suffering, and it's caused from our own mind, from our attachment. And the third noble truth is, he said, guess what, guys? You know what? Maybe pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. There's a way to get around it. Third noble truth is that there is, but the fourth noble truth, not but, and the fourth noble truth says, and it's your responsibility. Right? It's my responsibility. It's not an exterior responsibility. My happiness is from myself and from how I conduct my thinking, my actions, my effort, right? Right thought, right actions. And so that's the eighth noble truth, the eightfold path, eightfold noble truth, eightfold path. And that is like his recipe to how to bake this cake of enlightenment, right? All right. Oh, great. Dad, I'm so happy you're on. And usually if my dad's on, that means my mom's on. So I love you guys in Florida. So glad you're here. So that's a review. So when I was going on my vacation with the four noble truths, yeah, things happened. You can't pick who you sit next to. So I always thought, whoever I sit next to, I'm meant to sit next to, no matter who they are, So I sat next to one person, and this in the airplane, and there was tattoos all over, a big shirt that had something on it that doesn't really mesh with my thinking. And I thought, oh, interesting. So didn't have control of that. I wanted to sit next to someone who was just obviously, very more similar maybe in me and my thinking and whatever. But this is it's someone small too, because I'm a big girl, so they don't take up a lot of room. They took up a lot of room. So I was like, oh, not exactly what I expected. And then I was like, well, let's not go into judgment, right? Because once again, this is an opportunity. And so I could switch my thinking around and lean into it. And I realized the gentleman was young. He was late 30s, I would say. And I introduced myself in a kind way, and I just started to talk to him. And as time went on, it realized we had so much in common. And he had a young child who was about 20 that was kind of suffering in some ideas in a divorce that he was suffering in. And being a mindfulness coach, we just flowed. I was able to help him and really listen to him. And the time went by so fast. And when it was over, he was so thrilled. And I was so thrilled. So yes, I had the knee-jerk reaction. Hey, this is not necessarily who I was planning to sit next to. Not that I was planning anything, but I'm not going to suffer with that. I'm going to find out what we have in common. And can we have a dialogue? I also knew I could just go read my book, but the dialogue just blossomed into something beautiful. It's interesting because on another plane, I sat next to another gentleman, and he was, I know exactly how old he was. He was 39 years old. And he got separated. His son was up front, and he was coming to California. So he was traveling to California, and he wanted to show his son around California and Los Angeles and some schools. And so I said, oh, what are your plans? And his plans, I'm like, they're not going to work. It's going to be so much suffering. He's like driving to here, to here, to here, to here. And I'm like, listen. And the conversation flowed, and we set up his whole itinerary so he could have a really good time with his son. He knew exactly what to do when he got off the airplane, where to get his car, where to go next, where to have dinner, to miss the traffic, things like that. So that's what I'm talking about, is being in that flow and being part of it, and knowing that even when someone doesn't look like you or presents themselves, I'm not so worried about when I was telling about the guy with the tattoos, but the tattoos had like skulls and, the devil and stuff. So it was just not something that I resonate with. But when I got past that and got into the spiritual experience, we both had a magnificent time. And that's what's traveling is so much fun, because you can really work on the Four Noble Truths. You can really lean into that we're all interconnected and that we have much more in common than we don't. And if I go into that with my right effort and do that, then it's like these things just blossom, right? And you know what? It feels good to me. Today, right before I got on, I was looking at my phone. And you know how you get articles and headlines. I get Psychology Today, and this just came up. I just have to show it to you. Let's see if we can see it. It says, is happiness contagious? Research says yes. Hey, that's exactly what the Buddha said. It is contagious. You are responsible for your happiness. And when you center yourself from the divine coming in and the divine flowing out in happiness, then you radiate energy. Other people pick up that energy. They start contagious. You smile at someone, they smile back. And you know how that feels? It feels really good to me. And you know how it feels to them? It feels really good to them. That's the Four Noble Truths. That's it. It's like you get to have responsibility. Do I have to be happy first? I choose to be happy first, because I want to have right effort, right consciousness, right mindfulness, right livelihood. And if I can center myself in happiness, everyone starts going that way. You don't have control of their response. So if they're mourning or going through a divorce or something, they're ill, you don't have control of that. But that doesn't mean that they have to zap my happiness. I can still be in a happy state, right? But a lot of times, if they're down in the blues and you're happy, and I don't want to say Disneyland happy, I just mean centered well with peace, kindness, happy, then you help them lift up a little bit more. Your imprint is making the world a better place instead of being an imprint of a worse place. So on my trip, I will go back to this. I want to show you, we always do our hearts. Have you guys been looking for hearts? Yeah. So I, of course, got some hearts to show you guys. Here's my girlfriend. She sent me this. Let's see if I can get it to come up. Oh, Let me do it one more time. It took a while to get in. There it is. This is my girlfriend, Kathy, and she is in Malibu. And look at her hearts on her shirt. Life is good. And she's got the seasons of spring, summer, winter, and fall. Did not do that in order, but it doesn't need to be in order. I love that. And look at that smile. Is that happy? So I thank her for sending me that. And then here's another one I want to show you. Okay, so these are 3 of my girlfriends, and these are my high school friends. And I said, guys, look for hearts. And they all of a sudden said, Lindsay. And they start going like this. They're like, take a picture. We're giving you your heart for your show. I was like, that's so cool. And did you see the smile on Ellen? Did you see it? I just want to show you. Look at the smile on this. When I started to talk about hearts, do you see the joy that it brings? This is the good stuff. This is it. You know, everyone's saying, well, how do you manifest money and how do you manifest good health? You start with this moment right now and manifest a good, happy attitude. I was trying to say, what's this word I want? Attention, attitude, right? May you start there with the emotion. When we talk about manifesting things, we think them out. Well, people go, I do affirmations all the time, Lindsay, and nothing's changing. I'm like, because they're just words. They're just words. I can think words all the time. They're just thoughts. You don't have to be attached to them. When you become attached to them with emotion, that gives them the power. That gives them the power. So when you say an affirmation or when you have a thought and you want to create it to bring it out into the universe to blossom, then you have to put the emotion behind it. And we have to be very careful because quite often we'll have a thought and it might be a negative thought and we easily slip into the emotion of a negative emotion. If you think of something sad or something that makes you angry, you can feel the emotion supporting that thought. And you have to be able to say, no, that's just a thought, let it go. And unattach that emotion. Have another thought come in and bring in joy, love, peace, harmony, and have that feeling. And that's why the Buddha said you have to put right effort into things, because it's one thing to think things. It's another thing to feel it and actually do it. And that is the essence of creation, right? So we want to make sure we're not creating what we don't want. We want to make sure we're creating what we do want. All right, one more heart. So I was in the airport, and so I went from BWI, which is Baltimore Washington Airport, into Austin, which I want to say BWI Airport is wonderful. At least I was doing Southwest. It was totally great. And then when I went into Austin, oh my God, they have such a great airport. So much good food and shopping in the airport. And they had these cute, it's hard for you to tell that they're really girl cowboy kids shoes, but they're cowboy boots. And look, they have little hearts on them. See it? I was like, that's so cool. Austin is really cool. I just love everyone I've ever met from Austin is like spectacular. But then of course I'm telling you that everyone is spectacular. So anyway, let's go down and let's go into, I want to also thank some people. Actually, quite a few people gave me feedback on my class, my PIP class, or the show I'm doing. And I really appreciate the feedback, the comments. Remember to share and to send this on to other people and to like it, no matter where you see it. But I want you all to know, if you think I can make this better, I would love to know what I'm doing right. And I would love to know how I can tweak it to make it even more meaningful for people. So before I forget, because I get on a roll on all this, I just want to throw up my web page. Let's see. I'll find it. Oops, I just saw it. Not oops. Yay. Centeredmoment.com is my website. And if you want to get in touch with me about giving me some feedback on the episodes of PIP and how I can reach more people and have a really good content, better presentation, whatever it is, tell me. One thing people like is Buster. I got to remember that Buster's part of the show. He comes and he sits with me. It's so nice. Okay, so let's go to, we've talked about the Four Noble Truths, and this is, I'll just throw this up, the Eightfold Path, right? So the Four Noble Truths, that there's suffering in the world. It's because we're attached to the suffering, and we're attached to wanting life to be different, and that causes suffering. Third Noble Truth is that there is a recipe. You can do it. This is not, it really comes from you, your manifestation. That's the power, the responsibility. That's the third noble truth. And then this is the recipe that the Buddha put out. He said, right view, meaning you understand how life is put together for the Four Noble Truths. Right intention. That means when you're doing your actions, it's your feelings, your emotions, what your goals are behind it. So sometimes you might do something and it doesn't work out the way you wanted, you might have like hurt someone by accident. But if you had the right intention, then it doesn't set you up with bad karma. Or you might do something and it doesn't work out. But if you did it with right intention, with love and kindness, it'll work out. Even though it doesn't show the way you want it, you had the right intention, so you did the right thing. Okay, right speech, how you communicate with yourself, how you communicate with others. So that was really important. So if you go, my right view in the airplane is that whoever's sitting next to me is perfect. Right intention, I will be friends with them and I will have a peace-centered time. Right speech, I will communicate without judgment towards myself and towards others. Right action, I introduce myself, right? I introduce myself and I start the dialogue. I am giving respect and tolerance and kindness out first. That's right action, right? Right livelihood is what do you do with your time, your job, your volunteering, things like that. Right effort is that you don't just think things out, that you actually go and put them in motion. That's right effort. Right mindfulness, that means you practice being in the present moment, being aware of what's going on. So that's the practice of not having the worried mind or the anxiety mind, being lost in past thoughts of your past, or being anxious and worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. So you're missing the present moment, because the power of your life is always in the present moment. It's not tomorrow and it's not yesterday. It's how you're processing and what you're doing in the present moment. And right concentration is the practice of meditation. So now we know with meditation, you activate the prefrontal cortex. So this is where empathy, compassion, the ability to problem solve is. All right. So now we're going to talk about the right precepts. So we have 5 of them. These are kind of like the 10 Commandments. You know how the 10 Commandments are in Christianity and Judaism, and Moses came down with the tablets, where the Buddha said, okay, listen, I got 5 precepts, and I would like you guys to follow these to cultivate better character, to cultivate less suffering. It's like, I know this is a good way of thinking about it. You know, when you go bowling and you don't want to go in the gutter, so you put those the gutter racks up. I can't think what the word is right now, so it doesn't go in there. And that is what this is. It's like the 10 Commandments in Christianity and Judaism. They said, this is so you don't go in the gutter. We're putting this up. Follow this and you'll stay in your lane. In Buddhism, he said, follow this and you'll stay in your lane. You'll stay in that lane of developing and manifesting a life that's resonating in growth, enlightenment, kindness, love. So the first one is to abstain from taking life or harming living things. Now, that one is very interesting. Okay, thou shalt not kill. I think we've heard that before in the 10 Commandments. You don't go out and you don't kill. It causes a lot of suffering. It's not good action. It's just really obvious why you wouldn't go and kill something. But then you think, well, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm a vegetarian? Does that mean that I don't cut down trees? You have to figure that out. These aren't laws, okay? You have to go in and meditate on it and goes, what does that mean to me? I'm going to do the least amount of harm. Some religions take this and some people take it very seriously. And so therefore they do not kill anything at all. And monks and nuns would not kill anything. They can eat meat. Some monks and nuns can eat meat. The ones from China in Buddhism tend to be vegetarians, and the ones that are more like Zen and Japanese from that area tend to not be. The real big reason for that is in China, they set up monasteries, and in monasteries, someone would have to slaughter the animals. And so therefore they're like, we're not slaughtering animals because that would be breaking their precepts. But the other ones were more like traveling, and they didn't set up monasteries. So they would have begging bowls, and whatever was given to them, even if it was meat, they would eat it with honor, for it was given to them because they didn't have a monastery. So even in Buddhism, it's thought about differently. So it has to be what's right for you. But the bottom line is, I don't know how many people out there, but I don't kill spiders. I don't. I try my very best not to kill ants, but if they're invading the house, then I might have to. But I always bless them and say, may you go to your next life with great ease. So I'm like blessing them as I'm going. I'm honoring that they are life. I'm honoring that. So I definitely, it's not that something that I take lightly. Okay. The next one is I abstain from taking what is not freely given. Thou shalt not steal. And I think this is very important because a lot of people say, well, of course, we're not going to go and steal someone's car. We're not going to steal someone's property. But you also want to realize you don't want to steal someone's time. You don't want to steal someone's time. So if you say that you're going to be somewhere at a doctor's office or with a friend, then I always have the intention to make sure that I am there on time because they're freely giving me my time. But if I'm late, then I'm stealing their time, right? So you want to think about that. I'm not going to even take a paper clip. Sometimes I do by accident. And then I'm like, I'll either give it back or I'll send a blessing, and I'm aware if I did it, try to do correction. You also don't want to, take things that you don't, too much of stuff, right? You don't want to take, you could say, well, someone gave me something. And I'm like, yeah, but you guilt them into giving it to you. That would be stealing as well. Freely given. So freely given. All right. This goes with that one, is to abstain from sensual misconduct, not to have wrong, harmful relationships. In other words, you don't go out and manipulate people for sex, right? You wouldn't. That's a big one, and it's like in the 10 Commandments, they say you don't covet your brother's wife. It's like you stay in your lane. We have to realize that when it comes to sensual feelings, we all have that. It's inside of us. All animals want to propagate. We want to have sex. It feels good. It's a good release, but we can't just run around and be having sex with everyone. It's a real primitive thing that goes in our brain. So we know if we want to be able to all get along, that we have to be able to make choices when we have relationships, romantic relationships or sexual relationships with people that doesn't cause harm to yourself or harm to others. And it's such a big deal because this is something that's been going on forever. The feeling of wanting to have sex is built within your DNA, and we need to learn how to rein it in and use it with proper action. Abstain from false speech. That means you don't lie. It goes back to, remember the Eightfold Path? We talked about the Eightfold Path. One of them is right speech. It's so huge that you realize that you are telling yourself the truth, which is mindfulness, being in the present moment, being aware of what's going on without judgment. You're not saying false speech to yourself. You're not listening and propagating false speech like gossip. And you're not going and hurting other people with false speech. This has so much power, has so much power. It has so much power that it's in this realm. How we think and talk to ourselves and talk to others is absolutely something that we need to be aware of and be responsible for. Okay, and the last one is to abstain for intoxications as tending to cloud the mind. So, but monks and nuns don't drink any alcohol or take any drugs. That's part of their big precepts. Us as laymen, what we're saying is that we don't cloud our mind with these things, because it's very important. You have to realize, now the Buddha didn't necessarily scientifically know this, but when you drink or do drugs, you're changing your brain and you're shutting down your prefrontal cortex, and you tend to go into that caveman thinking. So then you just want to have immediate gratification because you don't have impulse control. You don't have impulse control. So when you're drunk or when you're high, or even some medications will do this to you that you need to take, you have to be aware of it. You eat more. You may say things you don't mean to say, right? You might steal. You might have sex with people you don't mean to have sex with. All that goes away. And the Buddha said, you are absolutely responsible for yourself and your own thinking. And if you're clouding that responsibility, that's on you. That's not on anyone else. You get to be able to be in charge of your thoughts, your actions, your manifestations. And if you use drugs, that becomes difficult. That's why this is a big one. It's a big one. All right. Once again, I went over a little bit, but I just love these 5 precepts. They really are something that I think about. I do feel like they really help me stay in my lane. Let me just show them to you all together real quick. So not to kill or harm, right? Not to take things that are not freely given to you. Not to have wrong relationships, and we're really talking about in the sexual way, but we want to have positive and not manipulate people, right? Not to tell lies or speak unkindly. That would also mean gossiping. There is no reason to gossip. It does no good. It only does harm. And why do people gossip? Because they're bored and they want attention from what they say, right? There's lots of beautiful things you can do, and gossip doesn't have to be part of it. Look at me all peeking over here. And not to drink or to take drugs that would hinder your thought process. So if you say, well, Lindsay, I want to have a glass of wine, that's fine. But you're not going to get in a car and drive, right? You're not going to make big decisions. You're the one who has to keep and take responsibility for your thought pattern. I want to thank New Thought Media Network for always allowing me to have this platform. And remember that it is a nonprofit organization and lives on donations. So this is the website for that. I want you all to, once again, please give me feedback on what topics you would like. Infinite possibilities means I have infinite possibilities for PIP. And I also have infinite possibilities on how to make the show even better. Even better. We are going to go on to 104 Buddhism, and we're going to talk about the Buddhist values, the code. It's interesting. It kind of sums up everything we've talked about. And then we're going to go into different topics. But feel free to tell me what topics you like. You know, send me emails. Tell me what you want. I'm really open. I enjoy doing this. This is a lot of fun. And remember, happiness is contagious. Oh, let me get back to my banner so I can take this down. Until next week, keep doing what works for you in your manifestation and your love for yourself and your love for others, and imprinting on the world to make it a better place. See you later.